Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to be going through the process of putting together 3 Project Life layouts from our trip to Porto, Portugal. Just FYI, the recording in total was over 2 hours, so I had to cut it way back. So, there's going to be a lack of continuity. You're not going to be able to see everything that I tried, but I tried to give you the gist of what was going on. As per usual, I put all the photos in their pockets before I got started, and this time I also included post-it notes just to give myself a reminder as to what was going to go in that pocket. For the date, I used the Artist Gather date stamps. My initial idea for the date card was to put the date on vellum with 3 different shades of gray to create a gradient and to layer the vellum on top of the yellow card, but that didn't work out because the gray ink wasn't drying. So I think I needed to use something like StazOn, but I only had it in black. So what I decided to do was stamp directly onto the yellow card. And then I added a little bit of journaling as to why we went to Porto. It's a pink tool that I use to help me with stamping is the Misty stamp tool, and I found it a little bit hard to use because the magnets are so strong, so maybe I'll try it with different magnets next time. Moving on to the second journaling card, I really like the blue texture on the card, and I wanted to make sure that I was still able to see it. So what I did was I typed my journaling in small strips, and then I cut them out and adhered them spaced out so you could still see the background. For the third card, I had also pre-written the journaling and printed it out. I gave myself some extra white space because I wasn't sure if I was going to need it, and I didn't know what ephemera I was going to be using. All the ephemera you see here is from the Feed Your Craft A Ready to Roam collection. So a funny thing happened when I was editing this, and I was like, ooh, I really like the red tag with the black, and then I realized that I went and changed it because I forget these things. I'm not always looking at them, but I still liked how it came out, and I just kind of wondered if you guys sometimes were cheering for a certain piece of ephemera and then you either got it your way and yay, or didn't. Anyhow, what ended up happening here was that my text box was too wide, and so I redid it, and then I printed it out, and then I adhered it. And the reason I decided to go with the yellow tag is actually because this card, I don't know if you can see it, but it has the yellow there as well, so I wanted it to go nicely with that, and that's why I chose that as opposed to the black tag. Okay, so in this pocket, we're gonna have 2 things. One is the photo of the sunset by the lighthouse, and the other side is gonna be the map of Porto. Because I had cut it out by hand, I trimmed the bottom using the paper cutter so that it would fit nicely into the pocket. I had a lot of journaling that I wanted to include about our adventure chasing the sunset, so I designed a card in Illustrator and printed it out. Next, I grabbed a couple of Instax photos and I added journaling to them. Then I glued them together and then went to staple them within the pocket. The one in the front here was actually a wall of wines at the window. They sell a lot of wine in Porto, obviously port wine, but it was still incredible because there was another window just like this one, and then there was another store down the street that also had walls of wine. I like the way that Ellie Edwards draws lines under her words, but whenever I try to do it, it always comes out crooked. But sometimes you just have to let it go. Moving on to our second day in Porto, we were on a mission to find some good natas. My favorite of the natas places we went to was this one, and I left the 2 photos together because they were going to go in the same pocket, and then I trimmed the filler card because I just wanted the sentiment on it, and then I stapled it onto the photo. I wanted to add a bit of journaling, and instead of putting it on a little piece of cardstock, I decided to journal around the plate. I then added a yellow tag to go with the color of the natas and wrote the name of the restaurant onto a piece of cardstock and then stapled them between the 2 photos. The idea for the date card was to stamp the Artist Gather stamp directly onto the sidewalk, but the gaps between the cobblestones made it really hard to read. So I grabbed a piece of cardstock, and after 4 tries, I got it. Cut it down to size, adhered, and stapled it. and then I trimmed a little bit off the top. And that was just a quick check to make sure that the ink is dry before I stick it in the pocket. For the filler card, I played around with some of the die cuts. The reason I chose this card is because not only does it go well with the die cuts, but it also goes well with the colors of some of the photos on these two spreads. I added the geotag icon directly onto the card, and then I added foam dots to the Wander die cut. And this I placed on the outside because I wanted extra dimension added. On the next page, we had our little excursion to Villanova de Gaia, so I wanted to add a title card with the name of the place. I chose the Feed Your Craft black tile alphabet puffy stickers because they remind me of departure boards, you know, in train stations and some airports, and I really like that. I used the thickers tool to try to get the alphas on straight, but because the stickers weren't very flexible, I had to do it by hand. We did a self-guided tour at Taylor's Port Wine, and I wanted to add a tiny bit of journaling, so I chose a tag. And instead of adding the tag to a card like I just did, I wanted to replicate the theme of having items quote-unquote floating within the pocket. And right here I'm just trimming down one of the journaling cards that I printed out with the story of the sloppy peacock. And while I'm at it, I'm going to plug my blog real quick because I haven't done that, but you can find the recaps for this trip and the one to Valencia on my blog, wanderlustdocumented.com. In the recaps I tell you where we ate, where we stayed, and where we went, so be sure to check it out. On the other side of the tag, I added a die cut and I journaled a little bit, and then I finally stapled them into place. After the tour, the wine tasting, and lunch at Taylor's Port Wine, we walked around Gaia for a little bit, and we saw some street art along the way, and rode the cable car. We then crossed the river back to Porto via the train and pedestrian level of the bridge, and from the bridge I actually took a couple of photos that turned out to be my favorite from this trip. For the filler card, I added a couple of die cuts to it. On our third and final day, we walked around a bit and we stumbled across the Porto sign. We didn't take a photo with it because right after I took the photo, a gaggle of kids ran up to it, so we just continued to search for the lookout point that's in the bottom right photo of this page, and that was what we were looking for in the first place. I added the around town die cut with foam dots, again to give it a little bit of dimension. After I finished the spread and I was putting away all my stuff, I realized that the die cuts were actually a part of a kit, and I went through the cards real quick to see if there was one that I could use, and I found a bright yellow one that said Explore. The photos of this new card are on my blog, which you can find the link for down below. Actually, I lied when I said that I took 2 of my favorite photos from the bridge. It's actually 3 of them. It's the 2 that I glued together plus the one where you can see the railing of the bridge over on the left side here. For the tab, I simply cut the rolled die cut in half and chose a placement where it wouldn't be in the way for either photo. Then I punched holes in the photos using a 6x8 insert as a guide. Now that the main spreads are done, we're going to work on the smaller inserts, and so I'm just going to put everything away and work on them individually. I scrap lifted the idea for this insert from Ali Edwards' lesson in the Travel Product Play 2 class. I gathered the different ephemera and photos that weren't used from our trip and fit whatever I could into these 2x2 pockets. A ticket to Libreria Lalo. The ticket stub for the cable car, which I believe it's pronounced teleférico if we're using the Spanish accent rules. I used the Hero Arts Infinity Circle dies to cut out the circles. This one is of our boarding pass, and this one is from the pamphlet from the teleférico cable car. This is the box that the natas we took home came in. A tip is to give yourself extra room when you're cutting something down to 2x2 because you want to make sure you're not cutting it too small. I used the 2x2 square to measure the other things that could fit if split in half. And this is the info booklet from Taylor's port wine, so I just took the cover because I honestly wasn't going to read about the history of Taylor wine. The world's fanciest McDonald's. We saw a bunch of these little people in love spray painted on the ground, so of course we had to take a picture with her shoes in it. Alright, so now I'm just playing around. The arrangement is almost done, and forgive me because the daylight was fading fast, and when I was recording it, it looked fine on the camera, but let me tell you, it was not fine. I had to pump up the exposure on this. For the smaller items, such as the circles and ephemera, I stapled them in place so that they wouldn't go anywhere. I trimmed the See the Sights tag and cut out a couple of notches so that it looked like a cute little tag. See, it's so much better with full daylight. Anyway, I popped the pages in the album and I'm adding tabs to the 2 pages that I've got here. When you've got double stickers on the inserts for the tabs, it can be a little tricky to get them in, but you gotta do what you gotta do to get them in there. So if you gotta use tweezers to fit them in, then so be it. On the next page, we're looking for a plain label that will go with the colors that we already have here. I'm going to write the name of the train station on it, but first, a cute little train icon from the Everyday Explorers Off We Go stamp set. I gotta make sure I'm spelling it right, and I checked the pronunciation online, but I don't know. I still don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even gonna try. Okay, let's staple it and glue it down so we can put it in the pocket. I'm just gonna swap out these 2 because it kind of makes it look like it's the same location, but it's not. The one on the left side is the church. So if you are on the street and you're looking at the church straight ahead, and the train station is actually on your right. Here I'm using the Kelly Perky Travel Words stamp set, which is unfortunately sold out. But on the front of the insert, I'm stamping the words train station, and because I might be a little extra, I added the train icon to the label as well. And on the back, the photo with the snobby peacock is gonna get the label travel story. This tab is getting the favorite sticker on it. On this insert is the famous red staircase at Libreria Lello, and it's rumored to have inspired a part of Harry Potter. It was one crowded little bookstore, so you have to purchase a $5 voucher in order for you to be able to go in. It can be used towards a purchase of something in the store. So if you want to take a picture of the staircase, be prepared to wait. I took a plain tag and cut out the logo from the voucher, and I placed a die cut that said Wanderlust underneath the logo. I then stamped the words out and about, and these are Kelly Perky, followed by a little border from the Everyday Explorers stamp set. I then journaled a bit about our visit. I adhered the logo and die cut to the tag. Because I didn't want to adhere the tag to the photo or the insert, I used a rose gold clip to attach it to the insert. The tabs for this insert say treasure this for the front and currently eating for the photo on the back. Since we have a couple of moments to kill, I just wanted to let you guys know about the template that I used on the back of this page, and that is from the Allie Edwards Hello Story 2 class. It's called the Grid Digital Package, and I modified it a bit and resized it to a 6x8 format. And finally, we have the flip through. I listed all the items that I used on my blog. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Obrigado, and until next time, bye!